guys, the truth does always have this very funny way of coming out.
Of including trans people in society trumps stupid competition. Full stop. So I'm right about this. You're wrong about this. Anyway, Dr. Shock, I agree. Let's get rid of weight classes in all combat sports. Perhaps have grown man compete in Little League. Sometimes life's not fair. Whatever.
Now, gang, that was only a very, very, very small bit of what Emma Viegland said the other day on the Majority Report, which I just don't listen to because Sam Cedar is, well, if you ever followed the situation with Cedar versus Crowder and you followed the whole Cedar versus Tim Pool ordeal, you would probably know exactly where I'm going with this. But you're probably thinking to yourself, why only play about 2 or 3 seconds? Well, that's because I'm about to play the whole video here in a matter of seconds. But before we get to that, we have to talk about why it is that it was never about science or trusting the science. It hasn't been for a while. I've done several videos on this topic, and by this topic, you guys already know what I mean. Actual sports, women's sports, all that stuff. There's even a bit where she says that women's sports has only been around for a few decades, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, okay, well, isn't that kind of the point of empowering women to go play sports so that way you can make women's sports much, much larger, much, much more mainstream? Isn't that kind of the thing? Don't worry, I'll leave the full clip in the description box. What I've got for you guys now is roughly 42 to 43 seconds because I think that 43 seconds pretty much encapsulates the whole notion that these people were never really and truly about what they claimed that they were, in fact, in favor of throughout all of 2020, and they continue to beat us over the head with all the time. Trust the science, all that stuff there, except, of course, when it comes to the topic of sports. Now, guys, I've been saying for a long time, especially if you are a woman, and of course, you ladies know me. I love y'all, even though some of y'all think that I do not love y'all. But, and I am definitely not a feminist. By no means would I ever consider myself anything close, but I will come out and defend you guys, especially when people start, let's just say, start tropesing on your domain, which of course is women's sports, modeling, all that type of stuff. The traditional feminine, the traditional roles, the traditional things that women obviously partake in, which by the way are being ruined by the, you can't say it or else YouTube will find a way to limit your ad revenue, which is by the way, one of the reasons why come next year I'm going to fully take these topics and moving over to Rumble as I do the transition into more video essay type content, which of course you guys will get a piece of that this weekend. But let's go ahead and roll this entire clip and we'll come back on the other side.
Emma, there's tons of evidence regarding testosterone levels in height, strength, and speed between people with XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes. Matt's citation off cases about the Olympics is pertinent, but an argument for better planning and more transparent discussions. Your argument is really bad on this, and you're out of your depth. You're correct that trans women should be able to compete in women's sports, but your argument for it is just scientifically and factually incorrect. I'm actually not bad about this. I'm 100% right on this. I don't give a shit about the scientific explanations. People, if they identify as a woman, get to compete in sports. If that's not fair in the short term for a variety of little competitions, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit because the societal interest of including trans people in society trumps stupid competition. Full stop. So I'm right about this. You're wrong about this. Anyway, Dr. Shock, I agree. Let's get rid of weight classes in all combat sports. Perhaps have grown man compete in Little League. Sometimes life's not fair. Whatever.
No, trans women should not be allowed to compete in women's sports. Okay, that right there was dumb. However, I do think the comment about weight classes was a pretty good dig at Emma's, let's just say, Emma's not exactly what we call bright, but she's gone beyond the stage of being not bright into NPC, which eventually leads to, as I'll explain towards the end of the video, it leads into useful idiot territory, which I think she's already in. And I would also argue that the person who initially made the comment may be kind of breaking away somewhat to a certain degree, like they're somewhat conflicted. Maybe trans women should be allowed to compete against women, but then again, that maybe we should eliminate weight classes too, which obviously was obviously a remark designed to practically troll Emma to a certain degree, almost like a good old fashioned shot to the head, a good old fashioned kill shot. I got to give that guy credit there, even though what they initially said was actually wrong, but I got to give him credit. Obviously, it went on a little bit longer than 45 seconds, but let me go ahead and say this really quick. There was this girl named Peyton McNabb. She was a volleyball player at right here in my home state. And let me just go ahead and run this, and then I'll kind of follow back up on this on the other side to also go along with the rest of the video.
November 1st, 2022, I was severely injured in a high school volleyball game by a transgender athlete on the opposing team. I suffered from a concussion and neck injury that to this day I am still recovering from. Other injuries I still suffer from today include impaired vision, partial paralysis on my right side, constant headaches, as well as anxiety and depression. I was unable to play the rest of my last volleyball season, and although I am currently playing softball, I am not able to perform as well as I know I have in the past because of the injury. My ability to learn, retain, comprehend has also been impaired, and I require accommodations at school for testing because of this.
Yeah. You see, she's got to deal with this for the rest of her life, and that incident in particular was an incident where a player reached over during a volleyball game, came up, spiked the ball, she got nailed in the face, and obviously she got injured. Obviously, the higher levels of testosterone, the biological advantages, are obviously going to allow the player a little bit more power when they kind of just come down on something and actually bash a volleyball, which, by the way, is not that big. As a matter of fact, I recall an incident in high school where I just simply hit one, just reactionary. Ball goes up about 20 feet, actually hits the light. Maybe the light was down a little bit lower than it needed to be. Of course, this was a high school gym. I was in ninth grade. I actually got made fun of over that because I almost broke the light. Of course, eventually we all got over it, but of course I was playing against other men because I played sports as well. But that does not mean I did not have my moments of being, let's just say, a little bit incompetent when it came to knowing my sport, especially volleyball, which is not that hard to learn once you actually learn it. But the thing is this right here. These ladies are actually putting themselves at much, much more physical risk, not just in the moment, but also down the road. I mean, there have been several instances of girls actually getting injured and getting hurt. Of course, Peyton McNabb is just one of them. Now, here's the problem. When you do this whole inclusionary thing, next thing you know, you're practically opening up Pandora's box to anything and everything. It makes you wonder. And, of course, weight classes was discussed, which, by the way, of course, there was a guy in there to actually hit her on that. Here's the deal. Are you going to put a girl who's 185 pounds, or are you going to put her up against a bunch of girls that are 120? I mean, why do you think that the UFC has these requirements of 145 and 125, 115, 135? Why do you think they have different weight classes? They even had that for men as well. Why do you think they do that? I mean, I don't think that Francis Ngannou, who, by the way, is not in the UFC anymore, I don't think that a fight between him and George St. Pierre, who was at 170, would actually go well. The only environment where GSP would have a chance against Francis would be maybe in a street fight where he actually has weapons. I mean, there are some fighters like Anderson Silva who could do it in two weight classes, but then again, not everybody is built the same. This right here is men we're talking about. The fact of the matter is you're basically applying the same principle to women's sports. That is not going to work out. The only thing that's going to happen is it's going to lead to more and more women getting injured. These are our mothers. These are our girlfriends. These are the mothers of our children. These are our wives. These are our sisters. These are our friends. And I know I can already hear somebody saying, you sound like a damn feminist. And my response would be, dude, don't you love women? Don't you like ladies? Seriously, don't you like them? I mean, I'm definitely not on the whole feminism thing. As a matter of fact, I make fun of it more times than not, as I'm about to here in a second. But the thing is this right here. Where in the hell are the feminists at to actually protect these ladies? So then what's the point behind sports? Isn't sports for competition? I mean, why else do women compete? Why else do women put in the effort to compete in their sport? Why else does anybody actually want to play sports? Why would anybody not want to get into sports unless they did not want to compete? I mean, that right there just shows you the level of mental illness that we're dealing with here. The level of conversation initially started with a super chat, and they were talking about testosterone levels and why it was definitely unfair, which I've covered on several occasions on this channel, why it is that men going into women's sports, even after transition, is not, like I said, I'm trying to tread lightly here because of YouTube's community guideline standards. It would still essentially make you much, much more dominant than the biological female that's actually playing the sport. We've had this conversation on several occasions, and in a lot of ways, a lot of women have begun to speak out on this. Of course, Riley Gaines has probably been the most vocal, but of course she got shouted at Berkeley. But that's kind of how this entire thing got started. Science, by the way, still backs my claim and still backs the claims of many others out there. So just go ahead and know right off the bat, they're not exactly trusting the science on this. obvious sign of this is, by the way, your own eyes being able to see, having some form of common sense. I mean, what was it? At one point in time, theoretical physics said that an elephant could hang from a tree from its tail while holding a daisy, but yet your eyes, your own common sense would kind of debunk that. Just crazy stuff as a whole. That's kind of where we're entering at right now. We've actually been in this realm of non-reality for quite some time. Viegland would also be called out by somebody else in the crowd. You'll see that in the full clip. The reason why I didn't provide the full clip is because obviously I don't know the majority report's copyright rules, but here's the thing you have to understand. Somebody pointed this out. They said, okay, well, if this right here is the case, then maybe we should just eliminate weight classes altogether. Okay, let me go ahead and explain why it is you have weight classes. I'm going to use the world of MMA. I'm going to use boxing as a starting point. There's a reason for this. Certain people are built differently. Some people can't exactly help their DNA, okay? Obviously, biology, things like that there. Obviously, some people are predisposed to be certain heights. Maybe you may be born and you may grow up to be 6'4". You may grow up to only be about maybe 5'2". Some men obviously have much, much smaller frames. Some women have smaller frames. Some ladies have bigger frames. Some men obviously have medium-sized frames. There's a reason why we create weight classes. Is that it's designed to not give somebody too much of an advantage. And somebody in the chat actually busted her on that by simply saying, well, maybe we should eliminate weight classes altogether. Now, really quick, what type of audience is the Majority Report? It's primarily a left-leaning audience. I would actually argue that it's not a left-leaning audience. I would argue that it's an audience that is basically in foul territory. Think about left field, center field, right field, and baseball. Whoever the hell is at bat obviously hit the ball behind the damn home plate, meaning these people are completely backwards. I need to actually word that properly once again, but the thing is this here. I think even a lot of rational, sane people who may be a little bit liberal, especially classically liberal, are starting to wake up to this. I keep trying to make the distinguish. I keep trying to distinguish this because I didn't do this in my early days. That there are certain sections of the left. You have the lefty moderate, which is really the equivalent of like a conservative Democrat, and then you have what we call the classical liberal. Someone like a Bill Maher, for example, is a classical liberal. Of course, Bill Maher is a little bit more liberal and a little bit more anti the right than anybody else on that side, or at least that portion of the spectrum. He's been coming around recently, but trust me, he'll still vote Democrat and still vote for the policies that he's been pushing for a long time, the very insane ideals that he's obviously waking up to. But then you get into the whole leftoid specter, the far left specter, where now anything to the right of extremely far left, anything in left field rather than foul territory is now considered right wing. That's primarily the audience that Sam Cedar's viewers have, Emma Viegland, all them people, same thing with TYT. And of course, in some cases, you would obviously say to yourself, well, wouldn't they try to pivot back towards no. They're not pivoting back towards the center. As a matter of fact, there's a video project I've been wanting to make for a while talking about why it is that debate is dead. The reason why you have debate and you have discussion is so that way you can kick around ideals. Now it's all about optics and who can hit and who the hell can score points, and now you get people who just interrupt one another all the time, and you can't get a word in edgewise. However, at the very end where she practically goes off and says, I'll put it this way here, you guys obviously saw what she said. You obviously heard what Emma Viegland said. You obviously heard that. You obviously heard her basically come out and say that science does not matter in this case. It's about inclusion. I have been saying for a while that if you wanted to give the trans athletes an opportunity, that maybe what you should do is just create a separate league. So that way, and just see how far it goes. Of course, I'm pretty sure it's probably not going to go the way they wanted. But then, of course, right around the same time this clip right here comes out, another clip comes out. Of course, this is where I was a bit of a rant, but I got to give Megyn Kelly some credit. She's actually been pretty good about this recently.
Don't find our voices and start speaking up against this nonsense. We can kiss every woman's space goodbye. We can kiss women's rights goodbye. We can kiss sororities goodbye. We can take off our tops and our underwear and do our yoga in front of perverted men who just want to get off watching us till the cows come home. Stick your daughter in the sorority. Let them at her. Find your voices, ladies, and the men who support us. Otherwise, this is our future. I'm sorry. I'm done. I don't want to deal with this shit at Tri-Delt, at Kappa Kappa Gamma, in the women's locker room. You can be supportive of trans people and what they're going through without surrendering to this madness.
Right. Ladies, it's more effective if you guys step up. It's actually way more effective if you guys actually step up and put your foot down this. It is more effective when mothers and daughters and, of course, sisters, girlfriends, and it's more effective when you guys do it. When you have a man out there doing it, it also makes the feminists look extremely weak, which, by the way, I'm kind of wondering where they are. Then let me say this right too, because if World War III is to break out, then obviously people are going to be, you have to sign up for selective service, and you're probably going to get drafted, which I don't even think people were getting. I mean, if I recall correctly, people weren't getting plucked out of work when I was in Iraq or Afghanistan. When I was in Iraq, and of course we had Iraq and Afghanistan going on, which makes me wonder exactly how these feminists are going to respond, especially seeing how it is that they demanded more combat roles in the military, which I've voiced my opinion on my backup channel, Short Timer Prepping, that this is actually a disaster, and it's only going to lead to more women getting killed and more men as well because of the height, weight standards and the fact that you've got to learn to drag people in and stuff. I mean, I've been through the training myself. I mean, I say all the time, prior service Marine, so obviously I've been through the grunt training before. The thing is this right here. When you start demanding these types of roles, next thing you know, it leads to a great big giant can. It leads to a much, much deeper rabbit hole. I mean, I've been saying this a lot, especially when it comes to the whole DeSantis-Trump thing. Recently, Trump got in trouble for attacking Kelly McEnany, but then Laura Loomer puts up a video essentially showing you that Kelly McEnany has a past of herself. But I'll put it this way here. The minute you actually open something up, next thing you know, Pandora's box is open and things just start coming out of the middle of nowhere. You can use the same exact rule here when it actually comes to women's sports as a whole. The more inclusive that you decide to be after a while, next thing you know, you're practically letting biological men come into your sport. Next thing you know, they have taken over your sport and taken over your spaces. And next thing you know, you don't have any rights anymore. Emma Viegland, I would say, is not very smart. However, the problem is this right here. After a while of calling somebody not very smart based upon their idiotic ideas, based upon their idiotic statements, after a while you realize that person is no longer an idiot. That person is just simply a non-player character, controlled, evil, maybe. Look, these people make exactly the types of people that Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin or Vladimir Lenin would have wanted. These are the same type of people that Mao would have wanted. We are what we call useful idiots. However, useful idiots, that term, and I'm going to go ahead and close on this right here. Speaking of that rabbit hole thing really quick, I forgot to throw this in here. The rabbit hole thing is, what I'm basically saying is the more you begin to investigate somebody, the more crap you'll find. Think about it the exact same way. Just apply the same principle to this situation. Here's the thing. Useful idiots, once they've been used, they eventually become useless, meaning that they become expendable. They're typically the first people that are put down after the communist invasion, which, by the way, I still don't think the communist invasion is actually going to happen in this country because it doesn't go beyond the cities, because typically only those who live in the bigger cities have this type of thinking. And I want to say that these people come from L.A., California. They also cross over with TYT. Not Sam Cedar, but definitely Emma Viegland. Fact of the matter is, these people right here are nothing more than good old-fashioned useful idiots. That is all the hell these people are, and that is all the hell these people are ever going to be. And when their use is no longer needed, they will then become useless, and they will, of course, be the first ones to actually suffer. Now, guys, that is all for today. I will be having a few videos coming out this weekend. As you guys already know, I've announced on several occasions I'll be going out of town this weekend, so I'm going to be leaving one video essay. I actually think of pretty much two here on this channel and two on Short Timer Prepping, my backup channel, which is about to become Gear Issue 33 again. I will be leaving this video here in the description box. Hope you guys go check it out. And also one more thing, too. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.